It's okay. No need to wish me again, but uh, had some technical difficulties. System walk through and dustbin. Okay, now is it clear, guys? I hope it is clear. I am extremely sorry for the inconvenience. Actually, I didn't expect this. Our system got like it's hanged and it's under. I'm not able to close anything and operate anything, so it took this much time. Sorry. Okay, so I already gave the link. I hope you access that link, right? So that is the worksheet ecosystem 2.0. So try to access that, and as I already mentioned that what is aspect of I asked the question regarding the nutrient cycle, right? So nutrient cycles, let's move quickly about what exactly the nutrient cycle means. So actually when you see the nutrients within this entire ecosystems, right, they are not actually getting they're never lost from the ecosystem. Actually they're always present, and as nutrients would go recycled again and again and again and again, right? So, and if you see the concept behind this, right? Okay, I'm losing the I'm losing patience because of this system is dead slow that I'm unable to really operate anything properly. Okay. Anyways, uh, I have to think about SNG. Maybe I will come down. Okay, fine. So when we talk about this nutrient cycles, what we actually talk in this lesson is mostly of carbon and phosphorus, right? So other than carbon and phosphorus, we have nitrogen as well as these other nutrients will be actually present in the soil actually, right? They will be present in the soil, and those nutrients which are present in the soil, we call it as standing state, okay? And it will be varies from different kinds of ecosystem, right? And even not only ecosystem but also it would be varying based upon the seasons as well. So the nutrients are never lost in the ecosystem, and they will be keep on replenishing, or they will be keep on uh, you know yeah, Ashwin, good morning. Yeah, they will be keep on recycling again and again and again. They will be reused. So how they are reused and how this recycling process will take place, we'll try to discuss today. Okay. And what are the other names that we can give for this nutrient cycle? For example, no, the other name we call it as biogeochemical cycles. So biogeochemical cycles. So otherwise called as nutrient cycling. And these are all of two types where I've already mentioned in the PPT as well. So you can see the nutrient cycles are divided into two types. One is gaseous type and one is sedimentary type. Within the gaseous type, we have nitrogen and carbon cycle, and within the sedimentary, we have sulfur and phosphorus. So the gaseous cycle, that is carbon cycle, one of the sedimentary cycle that we discussing would be phosphorus cycle. So those are given in a flow chart, right? So is it clear, guys? Yeah, right. So nutrient cycles and the flow chart. So I'm requesting again, and I'm trying to make you understand that these ecology chapters, you need to go with this flow charts. Okay, that would be more easy to grasp the content and grasp the things that are present in this lesson. So when we first talk about the carbon cycle within the biosphere, I already provided the picture in the of the NCERT itself. So if you have NCERT textbooks right now in front of you, you no need to access that PPT right now, because that picture, if you see how this carbon is actually getting replenished within this soil, right? How is that happening? in the sense like how exactly this being recycled within this within the environment or ecosystem was given in this diagram, right? So the picture is important. If you see, if you talk about, you can see that the carbon dioxide, like this carbon is in the form of different forms. Here we are talking about whether, you know, burning of the forest would release the carbon soot, or the combustion, incomplete combustion of the, you know, fuel. At the same time, you know, respiratory deposits also can, you know, can be also entered into atmosphere. So if you talk about the carbon dioxide, there are some reservoir of the carbon. When we talk about the reservoirs of the carbon in atmosphere is about 1% of the carbon is present. At the same time, organisms, like we all made up of the carbon, and it composition is about almost 49% of the dry weight, and in the oceans almost 70 to 71% is dissolved carbon. So carbon is dissolved in the oceans around 70 to 71%, right? And these are all reservoirs of carbon would regulate the atmospheric CO2 as well. And then fossil fluids. So these are the different aspects or reservoirs of the carbon dioxide. And if you see this carbon dioxide, this carbon cycling can occur through atmosphere, ocean, and through living and dead organisms. So where exactly this carbon, which is a gaseous type of a nutrient cycle, right, which can be occurring, this carbon cycle can occur within the atmosphere, within the oceans, and within through living or dead organisms. So that's what that was yeah, the force that is running inside you is the same force running in the solar system. The moment you relax from the eye, the other will disappear. What? Okay, this is quite unexpected, Saran. Anyways, I think I should more. Okay, fine. I think you took a lot of time to really type this, but okay, fine. Again, I think it's buffering. Yeah, thanks for the delete, guys. Thank you for deleting. Anyways, power went. Anyways, here we are talking about the carbon cycle. Are you guys are able to follow? Are you able to follow? So yeah, we are trying to discuss how these carbon cycles are placed in the ecosystem. And when we talk about the ecosystem, we will be talking about the percentage reservoir of this carbon and where exactly this carbon cycle takes place. Also, we are talking, and at the same time, we are talking annual rate, right? Annual estimate. For example, for about 4 into 10 power 13 kg of the carbon is fixed in the biosphere. Annually, this much of carbon fixation is taking place in the biosphere. So these are the numbers that are important when you are actually attending any competitive exams, right? So what are the carbon pool, if you say, right? What is a carbon sink? We can say is that we have, you know, respiratory activities of the organic producers and consumers respiratory. So after respiration, the CO2 will be released, right? At the same time, this waste materials would be within waste materials and dead organic matter within the oceans or other terrestrial ecosystems, right? Or burning of woods or forest fire combustion, all these things will actually act as this carbon sink actually. So at the same time, human activities, when we talk about, has a significant influence on the carbon cycle, right? For example, emission of the carbon by incomplete combustion of the fuels, right? So or else the forest fire. So these are all the human intervention is what one of the contribution to this carbon cycle, in the sense like influencing the carbon cycle in a negative way, right? It's not a very positive aspect when we talk about the carbon cycle that is influenced by the human activities. Okay. So when we talk about the pollution aspects of this carbon, right, this gaseous carbon, right, so we'll be more in depth, will be discussed in the last chapter, that is environmental issues. So as of now, if you see that diagram, you can get one idea that this diagram is very clearly depicted that there is a CO2 in the atmosphere, and the CO2 is fixed by the plants and producers, right? And that's acting as a certain sink, right? But once these plants or animals plants are dead, right, and like those organic matter would be decomposed, right? At the same time, again, right, when this consumers are actually respiring, they will be again releasing the CO2, right? So this the carbon is actually going in different forms actually. So this carbon is actually fixed by plants, and the plants are dead, and either we are eating or we are respiring. Again, we are releasing the carbon in the form of CO2, or carbon in the form of combustion, incomplete combustion, right? So in this way, the carbon is kept recycled again and again. This is how the carbon is actually establishing itself in the environment, right, in the atmosphere. So it is keep on occurring. That's why we say it is cyclic cycle, right? Nutrient cycle, right? So this is one of the cycle that was described in the NCRT, right? And then let's go to the other when we talk about role of human activities in the carbon cycle. Deforestation, burning of fossil fuels is one of the increasing rate of release of CO2 in the atmosphere. So CO2, the carbon in the form of CO2, the CO2 is kept increasing in the atmosphere by the human activities, and we know how these greenhouse gases would affect the entire biosphere, and we know the greenhouse effects will be discussed in the last chapter, environmental issues. Let's go to the next cycle, that is phosphorus cycle, right? When we talk about phosphorus cycle, it is a sedimentary type of cycle, right? So where we are discussing two types of cycles, right? So one is sedimentary and one is gaseous cycle. And then phosphorus comes under sedimentary biogeochemical cycle. So when we see this phosphorus cycle within the ecosystems, right, you will be finding this phosphorus in the form of usable forms, right, their inorganic forms, right, and their ionic form, especially their ionic forms. So these ionic forms are uptaken by plants, as well as they will be absorbed or deabsorbed. If you see that the picture that I given in the PPT, it would be more clear. So how this phosphorus is fixed, or how this phosphorus is actually recycled within this ecosystem, right? So the organic phosphates, present in humus. We already discussed about ecosystem, terrestrial ecosystem, humus, humification, etc. Right? Those contain, the soil contains this ionic forms of the, or soluble forms of the phosphate. Right? So further, if we discuss about this phosphate, right? This phosphorus is a constituent of biological membrane. So where do you actually absorb this phosphorus, ma? Can you please reply in the comment section? Where do you find this uh, you know phosphorus? Phosphorus contain, which molecules does contain phosphorus, right? Where do you observe? What form? I'm asking Harini. I'm asking what form? In what form? No, the carbon is in the form of gaseous CO2 form, right? So in what form you may expect phosphorus might be present? Yeah, very good. So the system is really heated up. 1 minute. Okay. So phosphate form, yeah, rocks, phosphate rocks, yeah, that can be done, yeah, that can be taken as an example. If you see the rocks, when the rocks are withered, right, so minute amounts of phosphate would be dissolved in the soil solution and are absorbed by plants, right? And even if you see this phosphorus, right, this phosphorus is one of the biological important constituent of biological membranes and nucleic acids, right? And so these are the important aspects, right? Even if you see the ATP, right, we have this phosphorus, this would be utilized in the form of energy, providing energy transfer systems. Also this phosphorus can be utilized. So even this in these are the different forms of the phosphorus, right? So what are the natural reservoirs of this phosphorus, right? Natural reservoirs of this phosphorus, then it can be going into the plants would do absorb this phosphorus, like, so it will enter into the food chain, producers to consumers to detritus chain. So once this GFS, this producers consumers, when this phosphorus enters into consumers, once the consumers die, right, so this enters into detritus, or the leaves would fall, right, litter fall, right, they also would enter into detritus, and after decomposition this will enter into the soil again, right, or the rocks would get withered and this would enter again into the soil. In this way the phosphorus is entering into the soil. So this is a very simple minerals called phosphate. Yeah, good. So actually I asked about where exactly this phosphate is located in different biomolecules, as simple as that, nucleic acids, etc., right? So in this way the phosphorus would enter into the ecosystem, right? So this is how the uptake of phosphorus will be taking place, at the same time runoff. So I gave very clear pictures of this phosphorus cycle, right? Due to the soil erosion, this phosphorus may run off. Or how do the plants uptake the phosphorus? So when the rocks, phosphate rocks would be withered, and those small amounts would be going into the soil, and that would be utilized by the plants. Okay. And even after the death of these consumers, that those consumers would be this after the death, the organic matter would be entering into the detritus food chain that we have studied previously. So then also this phosphorus would be entering into this is how the recycling would takes place again and again and again. Okay, weathering rocks, right? At the same time, after the death of the consumers, GFC, right, grazing food chain, or any other food chain, then they will be entering into the detritus food chain, and the decomposers acts on it, and then these nutrients would come into the soil. Again they will be uptaken by the plants. So this cycle would keep on occurring. In NCERT they gave a very simple diagram, flow chart. You can follow that. Okay, producers to consumers to detritus to the soil, and rock minerals weathering, and soil will be getting the phosphorus. So even the litter, it means when the leaves fall off, or the this litter would actually even contain, enter into the detritus food chain, and then eventually decompose to form these minerals. So this is how intake and uptake. So you can differentiate into phosphorus cycle into intake and uptake. Where does intake takes place? Where does uptake takes place? Are you able to follow, guys? Are you able to understand, guys? It is a very theoretical aspect when I talk about this, these aspects. This last chapters. Please do understand what I am trying to make you understand, right? Explaining. If you have any sort of difficulties or understanding or any technical errors also, right now you just let me know so that I can work on it. Okay, fine. So let's move on to the next aspect, right? So once we complete this, ecological this cycles, biogeochemical cycles. One example of the gaseous cycle is carbon cycle. One of the example of sedimentary type of cycle is you have got phosphorus cycle, and you have a comparison also, carbon cycle with the phosphorus cycle. Carbon cycle is something which is atmospheric input is higher, when it comes to phosphorus cycle is lower. But when we talk about carbon cycle, there is a gaseous exchange between organism and environment. There is a gaseous exchange is taking place between organism and environment. For example, CO2 is fixed by producers, and CO2 is released into the atmosphere by the consumers, isn't it? So this exchange is taking place in the carbon cycle, but it is quite a negligible when comes to phosphorus cycle. So that comparison you need to draw. Comparison and contrast also important when comes to this both the cycles. So with this we completed this nutrient cycles, right? If you guys have any doubts, please ask me. Okay, I will be going to the next topic. Okay. So let's move to the next aspect of this lesson, that is ecosystem services. So what exactly this ecosystem services means? The ecosystem services means the products of ecosystem processes are called ecosystem services. So for example, what exactly the ecosystem is actually giving to us? The ecosystem processes, right? After some processes of ecosystems, we are getting some products. Do you agree with that? Do you agree with that? The statement is, ecosystem, we have different processes occurring, right? At the end of the process, we are getting some products usable for mankind. Do you agree or not? If you agree, okay, if you agree, what are the products we are getting from ecosystem, or this is a ecosystem processes of ecosystem? Can you give one example each? One guy, one example. First you tell whether you agreeing with agreeing with this statement. The statement is, at the end of the ecological processes, you will be getting some products. Is this statement true or not? Do you agree? If you agree, what are the examples? Can you just quote one single example? Each one. You have 18 members. 2 members are absent, it seems. We already got the information. Okay. Yeah, we got the information that 3 of them are absent. One is a medical emergency, and we have one more already came, Ashwin. May Rahul is missing. Anyways, agree. Everyone told? Everyone gave answer? Yeah. So, for example, you take a few processes. So, in this ecological services, the ecosystem services, we'll be discussing about what are the services we really getting products. For example, healthy forest ecosystem acts as lungs, isn't it? Amazon, if you take Amazon forest, they are lungs of the entire planets. Likewise, forests acts as lungs, right? At the same time, they help us from or mitigate, or it will reduce the droughts or flood conditions, recycle the nutrients, generate fertile soils, and provide wildlife habitats, maintain biodiversity. What are these? Are all ecosystem services only, right? Uh, this pollinators, crop pollinators, and provide storage for this entire carbon. This acting as carbon sink, and provide aesthetic, right? The nature. We say the nature. We are all photographers, nature photographers, etc. Right? So nature, it's one of the product that, and even it has got certain spiritual values. So in PPT, I gave ecological services. What can be ecological services? I gave a beautiful flow chart over there, right? more than a flowchart, we can say that what are the different services that we can see in this ecosystem services. Within these ecosystem services, we have provisioning services, cultural services, and supportive services, and regulating services. In NCRT, they didn't discuss that much, guys. But I told now whenever I take, I'll be taking in depth as well as in the need perspective, right? So at least I'm giving some outlines here. So whenever you see this concept, you will be recollecting that. That's what my agenda. So in PPT, I gave very clearly, and I mentioned different examples also. For example, food. Food is one of the product of ecosystem. Fresh water is one of the product of ecosystem. Fiber is one of the product of ecosystem. For example, we say this provisioning services can be taken as F F F F 4 Fs, right? 4 Fs. One is food, one is fresh water, one is fuel, right? Fossil fuels as a fuel, as well as fibers, right? And then we are having even one more what do you say, products. One more product is, that is pharmaceutical products. If you take artemisinin or any biological aspirin, you take certain plant origin biomolecules. These are all can be used in Ayurveda, or you can use it in pharmaceuticals also. These are the provisioning services that we can see in this ecosystem services. Are you getting, now you understood, right, what I'm talking? Ecosystem services are nothing but, we can define this ecosystem services as the products we obtain from the ecosystem processes, right? Maybe weathering, or might be formation of rivers, or formation of this food chains, right? So yeah, uh, just a minute. Okay, so if you see here, so if you see here, I hope you are understanding what I'm talking. Yeah. So in this, we have different types. So right now, what we discussed is provisioning services like 4Fs and pharmaceutical molecules, biochemicals, and genetic resources as well. Seeds, we are getting seeds, etc. And then regulatory services like climate regulation, disease regulation, water regulation, and water purification, right? So these are the different ecosystem processes that you can observe in benefits that we get from these ecosystems. That's what we are talking about. Services that are natural ecosystem is providing for the mankind. And then we have cultural services like spiritual and religious activities we do in this ecosystem, recreational purpose, right? Aesthetic, beauty, right? Sometimes inspirational, and sometimes even educational, right? We can educate people by using this different products, or different plans, and extinct species of educational purpose, right? Cultural heritage also. So when you talk about cultural heritage, this turmeric is actually belongs to India. There are certain trees, or certain plants, or Ayurvedic plants are very much confined to certain regional aspects of India, like that some countries. So that gives even cultural heritage. So something which is a cultural services that ecosystem is providing. And the last aspect is supporting services. What are the supporting services we have? Or mainly nutrient cycling, or primary production, primary productivity, soil formation. Once the primary productivity, all these things would occur, then the secondary productivity would be depending upon the primary production. So this is how these ecological services would benefit human in many ways, especially these 4 ways which are not that much talked in your NCRT. But we discussed in detail, so I hope you understood very well, right? So with this, we have certain numbers also. They are all self-explanatory. So You have one scientist name here, Robert Constanza, right? Robert Constanza and his colleagues have tried to put price tags on nature's life supporting services, right? So when we talk about the life supporting services, these guys have tried to put the price tag for that also, right? Those first price tags and in the in the US dollars they were given, and those are all self-explanatory, and you can make a note of it. For example, when we talk about fundamental ecosystem services, they gave some value for it, price tags. Okay. So with this, we we completed this lesson. So if we have a quick recap, right? I have provided a beautiful PPT with a beautiful flowcharts for you guys, right? So please make use of it. Whenever you wanted to have an explanation, come back to these videos and you can really make use of these videos. That is the only one single motto that I am doing all these videos in YouTube live, though we have some technical difficulty, right? So please make use of it. So let's clap for us. So we completed this lesson successfully. Ecosystem is taken in online and we completed with 6 parts, right? 6 parts of the ecosystem. This is the 6th part and the last part, right? uh, thank you, Adams. Thank you, Tangavarma Saran. So in the online session we are the one who, I think, in my view, according to my knowledge, we are the first guys to complete a full length chapter with a detailed explanation with the very limited resources in this panic situation. A lot of things are going around, right? When I'm very stressful, you can see my face how stressful I am, but that's okay. It's a very, this phase we can all pass together. So your encouragement or your I will be getting motivated when we really interact in this way. So any teacher can be motivated, especially the way you guys are interacting is really awesome. Right from the beginning of the lockdown, you guys are always with me, and I'm really happy for that. And I'm really, happy to complete this chapter within the online session, right? And whoever watching online, they will have no clue. Oh, why this guy is so excited about completing one chapter in the online? Yeah, because they don't know that the resources are limited in this Gobi right now in lockdown situation. So yeah, we have to celebrate. So I wanted to see your faces. Let's later part. Okay. Yeah, let's start the next lesson. That is organisms and population. Where is the claps emoji? My system is so slow that I can operate one button and I can go to Andhra and come back also. So irritating actually. Oh, where do I find this? I think I can copy here. No. See, I'm trying to put the emoji. Still, the system is hanging. What I can do? Uh, I will use a very recent one. Oh my god, something else came. Okay, guys, we completed. Oops. I wanted to take one clap emoji, but I'm not getting it. Where it is? System is hanging. Oh, wait. Where is it? Finally I got her. Pada. Okay, guys. So let's start with the next half of the lesson. I mean, the next part that what we're gonna discuss is, organisms and population. I've already given certain aspects here. 13th chapter that what we are going to discuss. The graphs, exponential growth, and the logistic curve and their derivations. So when we talk about the derivation, when we practice certain sums regarding that derivation only, we will more understand that, in the sense like in academics there is a rare chance that we can get questions from this, but we should not take any chance. But so that's what, once we go through these equations also, it will be more clear. So I'll be giving little okay, Adams. Yeah, so I'll be giving little recap of what we have learned in this lesson previously, so that it will be more clear. And then I'll come back to this. I'll be giving one problem also, right? So let's move to the next aspect, that is ordinance and population. So when we talked about this ordinance and population, we talked about the different aspects that covering adaptations, biomes, etc. We talked about biomes, etc. Right, and we talked about age pyramids, stabilizing, expanding, declining, etc. And we talked about population density. How do we really, what are the factors does the population density would affect, affected by, like we have natality, mortality, immigration, emigration. So one of these four factors, two of the four factors can positively influence the population density. Two of these four factors would negatively influence this population density. So that was the formula. It was given here. That is, where is it? Yeah. So if you see this, nt plus 1 equal to nt plus d plus I minus d plus e. So these are the based upon this we have done numericals also. We can do some numericals. It means how this population density can be affected, right? When we talk about this, no, with respect to time, change in time, we can get this sense. So here B, we are talking about natality and immigration. These two would actually positively affect the. So when there is a birth rate, and when there is a immigration, someone is coming to that population, obviously the number density would increase. But D is something mortality, it means death rate, death. And E is immigration, someone is going out of the population. So obviously the density would affect negatively. So these are the two factors here, two factors here. Two factors would affect positively, and two factors would affect negatively. That you need to focus. So based upon that, we will try to do one sum at the end of the lesson as well. Okay, we'll try to finish this lesson also. Okay, so let's move on. So this is the till here we have discussed, and when we talk about the growth models, so how does the growth takes place, right? Even in evolution also we talked about the growth aspects of human population, right? But here we will be talking about, even we talked about real growth. So when we talk about the growth aspects, there are two different patterns that you can observe in the organisms. One is exponential growth pattern, and one is the logistic growth pattern. And when we talk about the exponential growth pattern, this growth pattern where the resources, that is, those are nothing but food and space, are essential for essential for the growth of the population, right? So this exponential growth, especially if you see this curve, exponential growth, this would happen when the resources are unlimited, right? So this is something theoretical aspect. So this type of exponential growth you will be seeing when it comes to some bacteria, and theoretically it's there. But if you see in nature, when you apply this exponential growth in nature, especially in humans, this exponential growth will not be seen, right? So when we talk about the formula aspects of this exponential growth, so we will be using this, this R value. We have, sometimes the questions may be asked as to find out this R values. R here is intrinsic rate of natural increase. So here what happens is how far they can actually divide and reproduce. So that is what we say intrinsic rate of natural increase. Okay, so for any species, this R value would be differing. Actually, based upon the R value, we can really find out whether the species would actually act as invaders, right? Whether they create competition. For example, if we increase, for example, if we introduce any weed, okay, weed in an aquatic ecosystem, based upon its intrinsic value, intrinsic rate of natural increase, it reproduce, and we can say that it can really invade that, invade that entire, which are native to that ecosystem. So they act as alien species. So these guys are there. By introduction of this species, they invaded that entire species. Like that, so the rate at which they actually they reproduce, their numbers would be kept. So that is what we call it as R value, that is rate of natural increase, right? So when we talk about this, so in exponential growth, sometimes they will be asking to find out this R value. So this is something, a derivation, you need to understand what is n means. For example, in this equation, nt equal to n naught ert. So what is n means? So n means birth rate, right? So n means here birth rates, t is time. So this is an integral formula of exponential growth equation. So if you see this exponential growth equation, it can be in this way. Okay, so this exponential growth can be written in this format, right? Okay, so here we are talking about the change in the death rate change. dn by dt, you would have been observing different integrals, as well as different derivations. You would have been working in physics as well, right? So if you see this change in the rate, change in the rate of the death rate, or I mean, this is death rate and the time difference, right? And constant, here we are talking about R as an intrinsic rate of natural increase, right? So this intrinsic rate of natural increase will be differing from one species to other species. So if this R value is more, it means that they reproduce in a more, more number. So that's how we need to remember, right? So for this is an integral formula of exponential growth. So in NCERT, they have given this equation, and they have mentioned what is R, what is N, what is how this was derived. This dN by dt equal to Rn. That if you see that how that was derived, how is that derived, in the sense like how can we came into the conclusion of this, right? So that gives an expression, right? Exponential growth expression, right? That is dN by dt equal to Rn. So if you consider this n as an population size, if you have NCERT, please open and you can look into that. So if you think that if population size is equal to n, capital N, period, that is t, right? This is a difference, the rate at which the density is changing. So that is equal to the intrinsic rate of natural increase of the species and the density. So that's how we are trying to equate. Are you getting? So once you go through this integral form of exponential growth equation, that would be more easy. So they will be explaining about what is NT, what is N naught. N naught is population density at time 0. This is NT is population density after time, and R is intrinsic natural increase, and E is a base of natural logarithm. So they will be giving all these things, and they may ask you to find out R value. We will try to solve these problems once the lockdown is got over. During division time, we'll solve some sort of problems, but you have to focus on these graphs. Especially the graphs are important here. So this is exponential growth right? Where you find that there is a lot of resources are unlimited, so they keep growing exponentially. There is keep on increasing in the rate of the growth, right? This is density. But when we talk about the next curve, that is the logistic curve, right? When we talk about the logistic growth, you'll be finding different phases in the logistic growth, and this is something J-shaped. That is, exponential growth is J-shaped, and logistic growth is S-shaped, sigmoid shape. S, you can see this S shape. Are you able to see, guys? Are you able to follow? Are you able to follow? Please do respond. Are you guys able to follow? Okay, great. Yeah. So if you see, if you understand this equation, right, we are trying to, this is a simplest form of this equation. So we can actually, during problem solving, we use this equation actually. Yeah. So when we talk about the logistic growth, they were given one formula. This one is given, where here K is the carrying capacity. So here carrying capacity is a K value. Here you can see that there is a K value here, right? This black line is representing K value. It means at certain level, what happens is after certain level, this graph would go into saturation. It means no increase in the density more than that. Beyond that density, there won't be any possible growth. That means that species are they achieved a carrying capacity. They reached a certain level carrying capacity, that there will be no further growth, right? Why is that? Because resources are limited. And if you see this sigmoid growth curve, you will be having different phases. Like lag phase will be there. This is lag phase, where initially this is lag. Okay, lag phase. This is lag phase. Oops. Okay, this is lag phase. Till here it's lag phase. Okay, lag phase means in this phase the growth is not that that fast. Okay, the rate at which the growth takes place is very slow, and then it goes to the acceleration phase, acceleration or exponential phase, right? And then it goes to certain phases of acceleration and deceleration. It means it may come down as well, right, based upon the resources. But when it attains, when it reaches certain level, because of the limited resources, right, this growth curve or else it is called as world's pearl logistic growth, Wellhul's pearl logistic growth curve also we can say, or VPLG also, we just call it in a short term also. So in this Wellhul's pearl logistic growth curve or logistic growth curve, you will be having different phases: lag phase, acceleration phase, deceleration phase, and then asymptote asymptote phase, right? Where finally there won't be any much change in the graph, right? So this type of population growth is called logistic growth. Sorry, right? And this can be described by the equation. This is the equation where again we are trying to sort out dn by dt are taking the rate change in the density and the time, right? And then we are having the R value here, again intrinsic rate of natural increase, and then K is carrying capacity. When we use this, just like any mathematical formula or mathematical expression, we can actually use this formula to solve certain problems. Yeah. So in NCERT they given a beautiful example of one analogy that king and minister, right? There is a chess game, and they are actually talking about how this, how can we really apply this. This is one example we can really apply this one of the equation. Once go through that, so that you will get more clarity on it, right? These are the two equations that were covered in 13.2.1, 2.2. Now let's start the life history variation. Next aspect, life history. Life history variation. So we are moving to the next aspect, guys. That is 13.2. It is 13.2.3, right? Now, okay. So what exactly it means? Life history variation. The life history variation, we have got populations do evolve to maximize their reproductive fitness. So how this life history would be varying? So life history variation, what we can study, what are the important aspects we can cover in it? So this, when we talk about the life history variation, we talked about the Darwinian fitness. Here, Darwinian principles will be talking about the reproductive fitness. It's not that who has a muscle, those guys are fit. No, the one who is better adapted to the environment and they are reproducing and they are passing their genes to the next generation successfully. That reproductive success we talk in terms of R value. So more we have the intrinsic rate of natural increase, those are more fit. Yes or no? Do we agree or not? Because one organism has a rate of natural increase R value per se 0.05 and one has 0.08, right? So based upon who has more R value, they will be more reproductively fit and they will be taking over that type of ecosystem, or they will be competing more with the other organism, right? So when we talk about this reproductive fitness, some organisms breed only once actually, right, in their lifetime, right? For example, bamboo or salmon fish, they actually reproduce only once in their lifetime. But when we talk about, when we take about different other organisms, they keep on with the gestation period gap. We human reproduce can reproduce many times. In that way, we can actually for example, birds and mammals, right? Some produce a large sized offsprings would be produced by these birds and mammals, right? So in a lifetime, many times would be they will be breeding. If you take examples of birds and mammals, right? So they will be breeding for many times in a lifetime. So we have more R value, right? And the sense in the other terms, like even some produce large number of small sized offsprings. Like for example, you take oysters, right? There will be large number, but the size of the organism would be small. But when we take about mammals and birds, the size of the organism offspring would be you know you know what to say, large sized offsprings will be there, but the number would be less. A human per year, like if they, for example, if they are not twins and all, maybe six, per year one. So the number is limited, but the size of the organism is pretty much larger. So this is how, these are the facts that indicate that life history traits of an organism have evolved due to limited abiotic and biotic components of the habitat. So this is how the variation is created in the life forms, right? For example, how do we see this variation? For example, Darwinian fitness. So based upon this Darwinian fitness, availability of resources, At the same time, limited abiotic and biotic components also would lead to this life history variation. Is it clear, the life history variation? Did you understand the examples? You guys are there? Everyone is there? I can see only few members here. Yeah. So this is how we can study the life history variation based upon the availability or limited biotic and abiotic components. So we are actually connecting this, this graphs, this growth patterns with this variations, life history variation. So and then we can really talk about this, what do you say, reproductive fitness, right? And then let's move on to the next and the last aspect of this lesson is population interactions. In the class, I already gave enough introduction about this population interactions, right? We talked about interspecific and intraspecific interaction competitions as well. So if you see in this, the next aspect of this lesson, that is organisms and population interactions, that is 13.2.4. Why I am giving this, unit or the subtopic, numbers also. Why? Because if you want to really go back and see these videos, you will be very much clear. Okay, from now this is started. From now this is and this topic is ended here. So for your better understanding purpose, on even for my reference, I am giving these numbers clearly. Okay. So when we talk about this, even in class work, then also I'm posting in the same way. 13.2.4. Actually, I thought tomorrow I would take, but right now we can try to complete. So it will not take much time also. Why? Because I gave pretty much introduction about this this topic. So we are going to clap for second time in today itself. Okay. So the population interactions, if you see that, how does this populations would actually interact among within the within I think I'll give a quick recap of this. Okay, we are not going to complete this topic today. We will start the tomorrow class with this and we'll end this and then we'll go for the next lesson. Is it okay, guys? I will be giving just a recap of this topic. That's it. What exactly this population interaction means. So in the population interactions, we have different population interactions where organisms interact in various ways to form a biological community. So from one population to other population, what forms is community. Within the community, we will be having a lot of different interactions, right? So when we talk about interactions, interaction between two species, we call it as interspecific. Two species, it is interspecific. Between two species, what is it? Interspecific. Specific is something between two species, right? Intraspecific is something within the same species. Okay, so now we are trying to understand interspecific interactions, that how species A, species B would interact among themselves. So if we talk about these interactions, we have different types of interactions existing in the this ecosystem. What are those? In populations, what are those? Mutualism, competition, predation, right? Parasitism, commensalism, amensalism. So these are the different interactions that we can find out in the environment, like this populations, and how does this each would affect the species interaction. Also, we'll try to discuss right in tomorrow class. So mutualism, how in this mutualism, how two organisms would interact. In competition, Competition can be inter or intra, right? Within the species or outside the species, different species. So intraspecific competition would be more intense than the inter, because within the species the competition is there, so there would be elimination and speciation also. Natural selection, speciation can also be observed. Predation, parasitism, commensalism, amensalism we'll try to discuss in tomorrow's class with specific examples. I hope this class was very clear, and you can make use of this video any point of time, and you can share this video to any biology lovers. At the same time, they can, who likes this biology subject, right? And if you have doubts, please ask me. With this, we'll stop today's class. Okay, tomorrow we'll start with the population interaction examples, and we'll finish that, and we will enter into the fresh chapter. And we will be left out with only 3: biotechnology and applications, environmental issues, and biodiversity and its applications. So once we complete this 13th chapter, we will think about to complete this strategies for enhancement of food materials as food production as well. Okay, yeah. So thank you guys, and please do subscribe or please share and like before you go, and please leave a feedback in class group as well. And thank you for coming live and interacting very well, and see you in the next class tomorrow same time. I will try to improvise, and I will try to minimize the technical difficulties and issues, and I apologize for the inconvenience caused before. And thank you guys for attending this class. Thank you. Please leave a feedback in class group. Thank you. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you.